The danger was over. The battle was won. The immediate danger was supposed to be over. The Silver Wardens had voyaged a fortnight into the Zinzerth Desert upon their sandcruster in search of the legendary lost city of Vikugan. They survived the hostile wilds, the sandstorms, burrowing worms, and sandkraken. Avoiding the tribal warfare of the local Musafirin and the draconic Alibarak, they found themselves beyond hallucinatory walls to find their outer steads of the ancient dwarven city. The outer district under the sky was claimed by the Jununun, jackals contorted by lunacy. Overcoming the maddened creatures of hunger, the Silver Wardens passed through the city's gates, both the physical doors into the earth and the prismatic wall waning with the equinox. Descending to the inner city proper, horrors awaited, the ancient inhabitants still surviving and waiting, twisted and contorted on themselves, physically coupled together as aberrant abominations. Facing the hunting threats and waves of denizens, our heroes ascended the central ziggurat to dig into the conspiracy and coup that allowed the blessed civilization to fall under the sway of Marnusht, that which desires. Holding firm to themselves, our heroes found an angel, long held in silence here. Lingering since the time it was used as a figurehead, it was set free. In resting, an artifact of growing significance was filched in the night by the order of Marnusht's high priest. The paths deeper into the further districts of daily life held their splendors and their horrors. The volcanic tides that powered the industrial district must be crossed. The natural cavernous park centered in the city, now filled with terrors. The heroes fought back the ethereal stepping spiders and faced the aberrant guardian worm with valor, but in death it took with it the mind of a companion. Returning to the ziggurat in the inner city, a laborious ritual in the hand of fate allowed the Wardens to rid Marnusht's influence from a blessed pool of restoration, to bring back the sensibilities of the cherished halfling. Tired but knowing time drifted like sand in an hourglass, the heroes pressed on again, deeper. Past the lava fields, past the park denizens, past distraction and decay to the temple of Marnusht, no longer obscured of its true intent. Entering the temple, the sedimentary and orichalcum priest had proceeded with his service, opening an acrid vortex of black sand to the far realm, to increase his entity's influence over these lands. The Silver Wardens opposed. The High Priest conjured radiation and desiccation against them. In rage, axes of flame and branch fell upon the servant of the far realm. Sand on the wind, it transferred its essence to other orichalcum statues within the lair. Fireball and starry hand assailed it. The incantations of 100 incorporated priests chanted through the halls in reply. Our hero of glory stood firm before its menace, and was met with a rain of desiccating blows from its stolen rod that rang across her armor. The more the heroes pushed, the further the priests diverted from sacrifice to simple destruction. A losing proposition, two of our heroes became held fast by the canticle of the temple. The sorcerer broke the Dwomeron one and readied himself to unleash a final starry hand in retaliation. Before that fist could fall, though, a flash of green light promised demise. A flash of green towards the companion not saved. A concentration of radiation and desiccation subtly promised since the beginning. In desperation, that hand instead splayed open into an astral raptor, washing over the elder and protecting him like a bulwark. That battle continued across and around the chamber until once more it made its way to the top dais before the vortex. The priest's intention of self-sacrifice to empower the ritual turned once more to aggression. as the valiant halfling stood before the rift attempting a counter-chant. The rod of Marnusht fell upon his shoulders. The raging dragonborn overshadowed the scene and drove his axe through the high priest's chest. He took a life-draining backhand, dropping him a second possible sacrifice. Mortally wounded since the beginning, our savage bear of a man sprinted on the wind, bringing with it an uppercut with the fertile fell blade to meet the flaming pyro. A headbutt to complete the break, the body collapsing into dust. Our brave, lucky halfling pleaded with his deity, but only black sand poured from the dragonborn's wounds. With the last of his power, he left the wounds as is and merely asked for time, for the dragonborn to have the strength to get back to where they knew water could wash away that cursed sand. And aid was given. The battle was won. The immediate danger was over. Many threats still existed, but they were supposed to be safe. But our heroes do not work in half measures. While they stopped the right hand of Marnusht, that which desires now had a new foothold in this realm, because they had brought an artifact of his to his doorstep. They were on borrowed time, bleeding and needing rest. That didn't matter. The vortex of acrid sand was open, and would likely erode outward if given time to spread. Drained of everything, the heroes had nothing but their training and their will to work on. Wolfgar's experimentations with the properties of the sand sets the disruption in motion. Balin dropped to his knees, praying for Yandala's help, but the roiling presence beyond denied any sanctity here. In desperation, Jorg took up the rod of Marnusht a final time, fighting off the Great Old One's temptations to take control of the portal's energies directly, stabilizing and pulling in. Torin bellowed out in thunderous dragon breath against an entity that he had internally been fighting with since arriving here. The shockwave drove down the sand and allowed Jorg to begin pulling the rift closed. Confronting this being of pure id, Darren combated its sentience. She assured it in confident voice that as long as the Silver Wardens stood within this realm, that which desires always will be opposed. Rumbling out in reply, Marnusht forced the vortex wide again. The Silver Wardens could not stand against it if they were not of the realm they protected. The heroes stood in a circle, hand in hand, forming that ring of friendship. No one would be running from this. The vortex would get no bigger than them. They fought for too much to run away now. Whatever it desired, they would be the boundary. As the floor fell away, one by one, each hero, falling into the disintegrating vortex, fell inward. They fell together. And as they fell inward, the circle they formed shrank too. The boundary closed. The last stand of our heroes doing not what was desired, but what was needed of them. We were not ready for this. These characters had so many stories yet to tell. The characters had goals they still dreamed of. The horizon held adventures immediately at hand. By some grace, the session of the final battle ended an hour and a half later than we normally go, and we didn't return for the portal closing until 2 weeks later. The stress of that battle had time to be digested. In returning, the sacrifice that was made in the first quarter of the following game blessed us with a majority of that session to let the first wave of realization settle and to say our goodbyes to the characters. Everyone processes grief differently. While it may seem dramatic, this was and still is a time of mourning. The characters were allowed their moments. Some players got deeply into epilogue scenes, while others practiced self-care and kept boundaries. Final character arc moments were explored, jokes were made, wild ideas of the preceding afterlife moments were volleyed back and forth. I realize that I'm being vague with this after going through so many details of the final adventure. But it was the glory and valor and choices of those adventurous moments that led to the end that I am processing. All of those moments after, I think those are just for us. They're how we reconcile the unexplored futures as we slowly turn to look towards new ones. I am not ready for this. I am a creature of habit. I am a person of slow connections. Making friends is not easy for me. Understanding new people is not easy for me. In the end of the campaign, we are all grieving, even if it comes in different forms. Some players create characters to fit different purposes in their lives, to explore different topics. I am gifted these characters for a time and grow to love them. For me, though, the sudden end of this campaign is a mourning of stability. I knew these characters. To an extent, I understood them. A player congratulated me towards the end of the game on how well I was improvising this epilogue session. But for me, I had months of tutelage on what this was meant to be. In terms of weaving a story, this was my final exam for these characters. And now, we were done. I absolutely adored these characters and was wholly comfortable with them. And now I've lost that. Every table plays differently, but also every party plays differently. With a new campaign on the horizon, there are endless possibilities of what that may look like. As a storyteller, I am fascinated at what this means. But as a person, as me, I'm terrified. I mentioned that during the epilogues, some of the players found boundaries that they did not want to cross. For me, this sudden change comes at a time that hits close to home. I am a creature of habit. I am a person that explores new territory slowly. Now, over a year into milestone play, I have found myself in a position to rather suddenly make a leap of faith that could make or break my adventure. I am packing up and moving to Indianapolis and trying to expand my creative ventures. This is a brand new adventure, filled with the unknown. Life has brought me to this point. I cannot truly say that I am suddenly making the choice to take this risk because it wasn't one thing. My actions have been leading to this for years. However minute, this has been building for probably a decade. In the end, it feels like an escalation from moment to moment. exploring a desert of possibilities, dealing with the random encounters, overcoming the waves of doubts and challenges, finding those angels to aid me on the path, and taking the mental blows, and eventually come to this moment where I have to decide. Do I run away and let this erode? Or do I stand firm and have faith in what I've done and trust that whatever comes next is filled with as much life and vigor as what was before, with the benefit of gained experience and stronger foundation to begin building again? As the distance between us grows, this is my SendingKenku. I am not ready for this, but I refuse to turn in fear. My party has gathered with me. Let the die be rolled.